We are still under the identification general category. We have here the PCAR part 1 to 8. So, PCAR part 1, general policies, procedures, and definitions. These establishes the framework for interpreting aviation regulations. So, defining key term is our key term in identifying this type of PCAR reg, and then this includes guidelines for managing licenses, certificates, including suspension and revocation procedures. That is PCAR Part 1. We have PCAR Part 2, or the personnel licensing. Detail requirements for pilot, AMT, AMS certification, including qualification, ratings, medical standards, and licensing authorities for AMS, AMP outlined for the required competencies as well, like maintenance experience, categories, define terms such as single multi-pilot operation, complex operation, and the process for foreign license validation. We have PCAR Part 3, Approved Training Organization, or the ATO. This is standard for training organization, including curriculum for airframe, power plant, and avionics courses. Specifies criteria for instructors, training facilities, attendance policies, and recognition of prior learning. We have Part 4, Aircraft Registration and Marking. So let's do a quick recap. PCAR Part 3, ATO, or the Approved Training Organization. PCAR Part 2, or the Personnel Licensing. PCAR Part 1, or the General Policies, Procedures, and Definitions. So let's go to PCAR Part 4. We have the aircraft registration and markings. This specifies the requirement for aircraft registrations in the Philippines, including nationality marks like Romeo, Papa, Charlie, something like that, and registration, identification, and placement. Define terms as airplane, airship, and balloon. So that was aircraft registration and marking. We have approved training organization. We have personnel licensing. We have the general policies, procedures, and definition. So that was the fourth. Now, aircraft registration and markings. The PCAR Part 5, or the aircraft or the airworthiness, covers the standards for issuing and maintaining airworthiness certificates, including initial certification, supplemental type certificates, and special airworthiness requirements. Details, definitions, and regulatory amendments related to aircraft safety. So PCAR Part 5 is airworthiness. PCAR Part 4, aircraft registration markings. Part 3, approved training organization. Part 2, personnel licensing. Part 1, general policies. Now let's proceed to PCAR Part 6. That should be approved maintenance organization. If we have AMO, we have ATO. So AMO sets the certification standards for maintenance organization, including quality control systems, facilities, equipment, and certificate validity. So this defines the maintenance procedures and outlines the renewal process for maintenance certificates. We have the instruments and equipment. PCAR Part 7 defines regulation for onboard instrument and equipment. So that's PCAR Part 7. Part 6 was AMO. Part 5 was registration and airworthiness, and then we have the registration and markings. Now let's proceed to last Part 8, operations. So this will describe the requirements for commercial air transport, including alternate airport criteria, fuel planning, meteorological limitations, and aircraft performance records and amendments, and operational definitions. So let's do a recap. So we have the operations for Part 8. Part 7 should be the instruments and equipment. Part 6 should be the AMO, or approved maintenance organization. Part 5 should be the airworthiness. Part 4 should be the registration markings, aircraft registration and markings. Part 3 should be aviation approved training organization. Why do you always incorporate with that word? Approved training organization. You have personal licensing and general policies. Now let's complete this and let's do some practice set for this so that we can get out of this. Now here we start the practice. So we have set certification standards, so including quality control, facilities, equipment, that should be AMO. Now we have the framework for interpreting regulation, defining key terms. That is our keyword, that's part 1. General policies, procedures, and definitions. For pilot, that should be personal licensing, including qualification ratings, medical standards. Regulation for onboard instrument, that should be part 7. Instruments and equipment. Covers issuing maintenance, airworthiness certificates. So that should be airworthiness. It's within its description. So now we have the operational requirements. So part 8, operations. Specifies the requirements for, that should be part 4, aircraft registration and markings. Now we have the ATO, training, approved training organization. That is it.